Krishna 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 Hare Krishna 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 Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Om Surabhyaya Namaha.
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 Mukham karoti vacharam pangum langayate girim yat kripa tamaham bande Shri Gurum Vinataranam yat kripa tamaham bande Shri Gurum Vinataranam. Hare Krishna. Welcome to our daily Srimad Bhagavatam, reading from Canto number 1, chapter 1, entitled Questions by the Sages. And let us see. Text number 20, eh? Yes, text number 2020. Kritavan Kila Karmani Saha Ramena Keshavaha Atimartyani Bhagavan Gudaha Kapata Manushya. Sometimes Manusaha Kritavan kila karmani Saharamena Keshavaha Atimartyani Bhagavan Gudha kapata manusaha Kritavan kila karmani Saharamena Keshavaha Atimartyani Bhagavan Gudha kapata manusaha Kritavan kila karmani Saharamena Keshavaha Atimartyani Bhagavan Gudha kapata manusaha
Kritavan kila karmani Saharamena Keshavaha Atimartyani Bhagavan Gudha kapata manusaha Kritavan kila karmani Saharamena Keshavaha Atimartyani Bhagavan Gudha kapata manusaha Kritavan kila karmani Saharamena Keshavaha Atimartyani Bhagavan Gudha kapata manusaha
Kritavan done by Kila what? Karmani acts Saha. Along with Ramena. Balaram. Kesavaha. Sri Krishna. Atimartyani. Superhuman. Bhagavan. The personality of Godhead. Gudaha. Masked as. Kapata. Apparently. Manushaha. Human beings. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki.
Jai.
Lord Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, along with Balaram, played like a human being, and so masked he performed many superhuman acts. Kindly repeat after me. Lord Sri Krishna. The personality of Godhead. Along with Balaram. Played like a human being. And so masked. He performed many. Superhuman acts. Yes. Report. The doctrines of anthropomorphism and zoomorphism are never applicable to Sri Krishna or the personality of Godhead. The theory that a man becomes God by dint of penance and austerities is very much rampant nowadays, especially in India, since Lord Ram and Lord Krishna and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu were detected by the sages and saints to be the personality of Godhead as indicated in revealed scriptures. Many unscrupulous men have created their own incarnations. This process of concocting an incarnation of God has become an ordinary business, especially in Bengal. We have one representative from Bengal. Two? No, one. You're also from Bengal? Oh. Okay, so we have two representatives. So this purport is of a special importance for Bengalis. Any popular personality with a few traits of mystic powers will display some feat of jugglery and easily become an incarnation of Godhead by popular vote. Lord Sri Krishna was not that type of incarnation. He was actually the personality of Godhead from the very beginning of his appearance. He appeared before his so-called mother as four-armed Vishnu. And then, at the request of the mother, he became like a human child and at once left her for another devotee at Gokula, where he was accepted as the son of Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda Mata. Similarly, Sri Baladev, the counterpart of Lord Sri Krishna, was also considered a human child born of another wife of Sri Vasudeva. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that his birth and deeds are transcendental, and that anyone who is so fortunate as to know the transcendental nature of his birth and deeds will at once become liberated and eligible to return to the kingdom of God. So, knowledge of the transcendental nature of the birth and deeds of the Lord is sufficient for liberation. In 9 cantos. And in the 10th canto, his specific pastimes are taken up. All this becomes known as one's reading all this becomes known as one's reading of this literature progresses. It is important to note here, however, that the Lord exhibited his divinity even from the lap of his mother, that his deeds are all superhuman. He lifted Govardhan Hill at the age of 7, and that all these acts definitely prove him to be actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yet, due to his mystic covering, he was always accepted as an ordinary human child by his so-called father and mother and other relatives. Whenever some Herculean task was performed by him, the father and mother took it otherwise, and they remained satisfied with unflinching filial love for their son. As such, the sages of Naimisharanya describe him as apparently resembling a human being, but actually he is the Supreme Almighty Personality of Godhead. Translation again. Lord Sri Krishna, the Personality of Godhead, along with Balaram, played like a human being, and so masked, he performed many superhuman acts. So this point is being nicely explained here, that one does not become God, one from the very beginning of one's appearance, as nicely demonstrated by Lord Krishna. From the very moment of his appearance, he displays his godly nature. It means God is eternally God, and the living entity is eternally the living entity. Mamae vangsho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana. Sanatana, eternal. This is a very basic and fundamental truth, which is, of course, revealed in the Bhagavad Gita. But unfortunately, as Prabhupada points out, this has been especially the practice in the land of Dharma, in India especially, for people to profess themselves to be God, or for their followers to actually elevate them to the status of God. So Srila Prabhupada would explain, anytime, if anyone goes to India, they'll find at least half a dozen gods wandering around. That's minimum. More. And when Srila Prabhupada traveled to America, there were self-proclaimed gods at that time also, without giving any particular names. But and they would attract many followers as well. So one of the very fundamental, essential points, which is also mentioned here, is that we cannot accept anything as truth or bona fide unless it is substantiated in the Shastra, in the Vedic literatures in particular. And this is actually one of the basic tattvas that we were speaking about the other day. Our acharyas have established some basic unchanging realities or truth, absolute truth. Knowing about these tattvas, we can actually, just like in the purport, Prabhupada quotes the verse from the Bhagavad Gita, that if one understands the transcendental nature of the Lord's appearance and activities, one can become, simply by knowing this, one can actually become freed and liberated from this material world. So the first of the 10 tattvas, as described by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, is that all knowledge we accept only as knowledge what can be, or what is verifiable or substantiated in the Shastra. And the original knowledge are actually the Vedas. Because the Vedas are revealed knowledge. They are revealed to Lord Brahma at the beginning of every creation. And this original transcendental knowledge of the Vedas, which is an eternal knowledge, an unchanging knowledge, is transmitted in Guru Parampara throughout the ages. Every single day of Lord Brahma, through so many different incarnations, through so many manus that govern different parts of the universe, this same basic knowledge of Vedic literatures is actually given. That means that anyone who comes in contact with this knowledge is indeed very fortunate, because simply by receiving this knowledge and putting into practice this knowledge, but under the guidance of the bona fide practitioner, one can actually become freed and liberated from this material world. And because the Vedic literatures are guiding light, therefore we can only accept incarnations based on references. So that is nicely substantiated, especially by our Goswamis in Vrindavan. We have an extremely, very, very rich lineage. We're very fortunate. Our Vaishnav Sampradaya, especially since the time of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, has all of these very powerful and very learned scholars who are very well acquainted with the subject matter that is contained in the Vedic literatures. And that is meant to be the subject matter that one learns if one is fortunate to go to Gurukula. How many have gone to Gurukula? Not many, hands up. Yeah. So that is the standard medium or process, because actually Gurukula curriculum is based on the Vedas, isn't it? And the Vedas are explaining about Sanatan Dharma. So Sanatan, the very word Sanatan means eternal. It is an eternal process. It is an eternal knowledge. But within this knowledge of the Vedas, there is a section which is very, we could say, confidential. When Krishna is speaking to Arjuna just before the battle of Kurukshetra, he is explaining to Arjuna that he should not be confused or distracted by what he refers to, Lord Krishna refers to, the flowery language of the Vedas. If we just by ourselves study the Vedic literatures, there are all good chances that we will become confused, because there's so much of information, and and a lot of that information, most of that information, is covering or having to do with what is called karma kanda and jnana kanda, which means that it is on the material level. It is motivated. It is arranged in that way to actually induce people at least to follow the Vedic literatures, so that gradually they can become purified. But the very confidential part of the Vedas, just like we hear, and it's amazing when we think of it, that it was only a few generations before Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that the concept of Sri Sri Radha and Krishna was actually known. Before that it was very less known. This whole, we of course hear it on a regular basis. We are accustomed to hearing either lectures from Srila Prabhupada or reading his books, and the whole concept of the very intimate, loving relationship between Radha and Krishna, which, as Prabhupada mentions, is actually concealed or hidden in the later pages of the Bhagavatam. They are not so easily accessible. And so much so that even before the advent of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, very few people actually were familiar or knowing about. So when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually deputed his foremost and most intimate associates, means the Goswamis of Vrindavan, he specifically gave them the mandate to actually extract, to take out from the vast body of Vedic literatures the essence. The essence, of course, being Bhakti. And we cannot speak of bhakti, of pure bhakti, unless we come to that most confidential and topmost level of knowledge, which is the bhakti, or the devotion, the loving devotional exchanges between Radha and Krishna. There was a few days back in one of the Bhagavatam classes a reference to rasa, you may remember, and that is one of the unique features of our Vaishnava Sampradaya, and that is, of course, by the mercy especially of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Just like that wonderful prayer that we have heard, Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gora Tuse Namaha. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is that personality who has come to actually open up and make available the storehouse of love of Godhead, which was never difficult for us to imagine. How is it that people in Kali Yuga are so fortunate that they're getting the opportunity to receive what nobody else ever had? Isn't it? It is inconceivable, but actually that is what Lord Chaitanya and his Sankirtan movement and his most confidential associates are giving to the world. And that is why anyone who is having the great fortune to come in contact with these teachings, although one may not immediately take full advantage of it, but by coming in contact, one is assured of liberation. That's nicely explained also by Srila Rupa Goswami in the beginning of the Nectar of Devotion, that this process of bhakti or devotional service, what are the 6 symptoms or characteristics as explained by Srila Rupa Goswami? When is the last time you read your Nectar of Devotion? I can't. Klesha? Can you translate in English for the less...
It destroys the all sinful activities which is
It puts an end to all sinful activities. Yes. Brings immediate relief from all distress. For those who take it, immediately situates one in transcendental happiness, transcendental bliss, because we come to know that we are not this body, but eternal spirit souls. And of course, one of the characteristics mentioned is that it is very rarely obtained. It is only if one comes in contact with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu or his representative. And it is such a thing that one who is fortunate to cultivate this science of bhakti, for him mukti is unimportant. So in this way, this knowledge or this information is nicely described in the pages of the Bhagavatam, and as first given to us by Shukadeva Goswami, and as heard and as will be repeated in the forest of Naimisharanya, also by Sutta Goswami. And of course, that is one of the subject matters, the subject matter of different incarnations. We we come to know how to judge, how to understand someone as actually being an incarnation. And one of the criteria, of course, is that unless it is described, unless it is corroborated in the Shastra, then we cannot accept some individual personality as incarnation. And of course, that will be nicely described, how those who were Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was actually surrounded by extremely exalted personalities, very advanced devotees, and because they were especially personalities like Swarup Damodar, who was constantly with Lord Chaitanya when Lord Chaitanya was in Jagannath Puri, and Rai Ramananda Roy, who could recite Shastra, who were deeply knowledgeable. Not only them, but so many other devotees, they could understand by the symptoms being manifest by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that he was actually incarnation. So this point is being made here, that it is only by cultivating this knowledge of Vedic literatures that we can understand about both the material world as well as the spiritual world, and in this way make our life perfect. I will read the verse again. This is text number 20. Lord Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, along with Balaram, played like human beings, and so masked means in this way like concealed or hidden. Lord Krishna performed many superhuman acts. So any thoughts on this? Yes.
Is there a relation between the devotional service and Veda? Because we are following Vedas, and because the Vedas are like Karma Kanda and Dana. We are practicing Bhakti. Is there any relation with that?
Is there any relation between
Devotional service and
devotional service
Vedas?
and the Vedas?
Whether we are following that?
Interesting question. Well, when I mention about Karma Kanda and Jnana Kanda, that is not the only thing that's in the Shastra or in the Vedas. The essence and the most confidential part of the Vedas is Bhakti, isn't it? So this is what our acharyas, especially the Goswamis of Vrindavan, they are like those personalities who specialize in mining. Just like if you have a gold mine, and if you're a good miner, you'll extract the mine, the gold rather, You'll extract the gold from the mine. So the Goswamis in Vrindavan were especially, because they were, number one, pure devotees and very well versed in Sanskrit, highly advanced personalities, very intelligent, and especially they were blessed by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So they extracted from the Vedas what we are receiving today in the form of such literatures like Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Upadeshamrita, and so many other literatures, a vast array of transcendental literatures written by our Goswamis and continued by their other representatives coming up to, for example, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who also wrote so extensively that he is referred to as the seventh Goswami, isn't it? Yeah. And just see what our own founder, Acharya Srila Prabhupada. So our line, since the time of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, has specialized and continues to specialize in the realm of bhakti. And that realm of bhakti, we have to understand and we have to be careful, is not simply that, we just leave our mother and father and children and we just, go to the ashram or go to the forest or go to the Himalayas. The realm of bhakti is present everywhere and can be introduced in all situations. And that is one of the foremost instructions given by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also, whether you are a householder, whether you are a tyagi, wherever you may be, you just take up the chanting of the holy name and you perform devotional service. So that is why also we speak about Daiva Varnasrama, because Varnasrama that has that motive in all of its different levels, in all of its different divisions, also becomes bhakti. Also becomes bhakti. That word Daiva means divine. That is directly connected with a basic instruction that Krishna gives, of course, in the Bhagavad Gita. Whatever we offer, patram pushpam phalam toyam, whatever we give and offer to the Lord, He accepts, and that becomes prasadam, that becomes spiritualized. So our Goswamis and our line of Vaishnavacharyas are teaching us how to purify, how to spiritualize. Prabhupada, in the early days in America, he would use the term, how to make everything Krishnized, how to Krishnize everything. And that is easily done when we make that connection and we maintain that kind of level of consciousness, that whatever we think, whatever we speak, whatever we do that in connection with Krishna. So bhakti is very much, that is the essence of the Vedic knowledge, but it is hidden, it is concealed, you see. And it can only be had, it can only be received. The seed of bhakti, as we often hear, bhakti lata bij is received actually by the mercy of Guru, by the mercy of Vaishnavas. Yes. You can say in local, because sometimes, yeah.
Is that Krishna is two hand and Vishnu is four hand.
Krishna has 2 hands, Vishnu is 4 hands. Vishnu is bigger and better. Yeah.
And for any specific occasions like to Akrura and to Devaki also, for all specific occasions he has showed again 4-handed. So which is actually greater?
Which is actually greater. Well, 4 is more than 2 in mathematics. But we follow transcendental mathematics. 2 is more than 4. Because this is also something which, like in India, in the land of Dharma, is still not accepted or known by the vast majority of practitioners or transcendentalists who believe in God. That very often people will say that, well, Narayan, right? Narayan has 4 arms. Like Vishnu has 4 arms, so they're more powerful. They can do more things with 4 arms than with 2 arms. But Krishna proved different. Yeah. So this is part of the confidential knowledge that one comes to know, that one receives, by coming in contact with what Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has revealed. And so it is clear to us, and that's nicely explained in so many purports in the Bhagavatam, that Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam, that is one of the verses, very important verses, and there are many others also, both in the Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita, whereby it is clearly established that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And those who are faithless, because that is the essence of Dharma. Bhakti is the essence of Dharma. Bhakti that takes one to that highest realm of rasa, which is actually beyond, I was going to say, ordinary Vaikuntha. There is such a thing as, Vaikuntha planets. All of the Vaikuntha planets where different forms, different features of Lord Narayan are being manifest. One can only develop one's rasa up to a certain level. One cannot have the full display, the full experience. The full experience is only in Goloka. Partial experience is in other planets. Full experience, full manifestation of bhakti or devotion, devotional service, is only, and that's why it is so rare and so confidential also. It is only available in the higher realms of rasa, just like especially, Madhurya rasa, but others as well. Yeah. So it's 2. Today, because we are not sitting in Ananda Bazaar, no one has thought, hey, kotai, achi, okay. Actually, we have a surprise for everyone. And I think usually everyone